Good afternoon. This is Eden, your local realtor. Thank you so much for coming out and listening to this great program. Today, here in the house, I do have Alan. He's an amazing mortgage broker. And the goal here is today we're going to talk about on how to be your own bank. I mean, I care about you. Just always try to find a way how I can benefit you. So, Alan, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, thanks for having me, Eden, and say hi to everybody here. My name is Alan. I'm a co-founder of Guardian Mortgages. We're a brokerage that specializes in not just purchasing your home, but actually owning your home. Basically, we're here to help you pay down your mortgage as quickly as possible so you can save on time and total interest. Especially in a time like this, that's why I think Eden and I have been so closely working together at a time where interest rates are going up. What can be done to help you restructure your mortgage if a renewal is coming up, for example?
Excellent, excellent. And that's the best news. As a matter of fact, you were telling me there's about 500,000 mortgages that will be renewed right here in GTA, correct?
Oh, actually, no, that's about, we're in the, sorry, that's not the number specifically. We're talking about the amount of mortgages about to renew. So the dollar amount, we're into almost, I think it was like 5 billion or so, but 256 billion in Canada as well. So we broke it down to Ontario. So we're looking at about quite a lot of renewals coming up in 2024 anyways.
Okay, so that's quite a large number, but we don't have the exact number of the renewal. But again, the concern is the rate. I guess no one can predict what rate would do. But at the same time, for most people that were carrying their mortgage with an average of 2%, right now the mortgage is, what is it, 5.4 right now? If you have great credit.
Actually, well, the prime rate is actually 7.2 right now. So if you're in an open rate, if you're lucky, you got a variable, you might get prime -1, if anything. On a fixed side, if you fixed in, you're probably looking at a renewal anywhere between the 524, 514, purchases of 495. But as much as I can talk interest rates, one of the things that I do want to really put out there, it's not always about the interest rate. It really isn't. And one of the things is that when we're taking a look at what's going on with the interest rate, we do need to really focus on how our mortgage is actually structured. I do really emphasize that. While I understand that there is a lot of potential hardships coming up with these interest rates and the squeeze with inflation, I just went up again in like December, 3.4%. It kind of talks about why it's so important to actually really understand all the options that's available to you, right? And so for some cases, for people who are just renewing right now, who might have bought into their homes, prior to the pandemic, yes, it will go up, but at least maybe, you bought at a time where your mortgage might be not as the same level if you bought a home, let's say 2 years ago at an all-time peak, right? And those two situations can be helped, but they're dealt a little bit differently in how you structure your mortgage. It really
Okay,
is.
well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So let's say the average person has approximately, let's say, 500,000 mortgage, right, to purchase a home. Uh, Now, with that amount of mortgage, 500,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you would recommend than the regular traditional renewal way? Like, what do you like? Like, and what does that do for them doing it your way?
Okay. Well, our way, it's not necessary. It's something that we just want to make sure that this was actually always been around. We just like to bring it to the forefront. And what we like to do is just literally just financial literacy, just to understand the banking system a little bit, understand interest rates. So the first thing is it's not always about interest rates. Okay, that's number one.
Okay.
And really we're here is to talk about your cash flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And understand how that can really affect not just your cash flow and your situation, but it does have other material costs like your health, mental health, and all that good stuff. But focusing on the 500,000 here, if you're looking at a renewal rate, there are different questions you can ask yourself. Not just how low the interest rate you can get, but really, and the biggest question I see right now is, with interest rates going up right now, and I'm making these payments, all of it's going to interest. How do I make sure that some of my payments go into the principal, making sure that I'm actually paying down? And that's the question we should be asking. How do we, and that's the other side of the equation, right? There's two parts of an interest payment, interest times principal.
That's right.
So how do we direct our most precious asset, which is our income, has it towards directed paying down our debt. That is the question. So if you can, and anybody who can probably relate to this as well, in an environment right now where interest rates are going up, it is particularly damaging right now. And it's a double-headed sword in many cases here, because not only has the mortgage rates gone up, but if you're in a variable, for example, it's not going up equally. In fact, we all know amortized mortgages are what we call front-loaded interest products. So the interest part goes up more so than the principal. So your payment, right? Your payment on a $500,000 mortgage is mostly going to be interest. It's not actually paying down that $500,000 of debt.
That's right.
How do you structure your payment so your principal gets hit first, and then you pay for the interest afterwards?
I like that. Your principal, goes like that amount of money, that large amount of money you pays mostly the principal first and the interest. That sounds amazing. But at the same time, I guess the main reason why most people pay attention to interest rate is that monthly payment. I mean, there's no way of getting around to that monthly payment, right? You have to afford that to start with, correct?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So to afford the mortgage that you need, there is one simple rule. It's very simple, and just back in that, but you need to make more money than you're actually spending. That's obviously the first, right?
Yeah.
But that in itself is a ratio as well. So it's really, and that comes into question, and then it's a very good part of it in the discussion is that, yes, you have to bring in more money than you're actually spending. But what is you spending on? And that raises another question. What is the difference between good debt and bad debt?
Exactly.
Okay. When you start answering this part of the question, that's when you actually, it gives you the clue about how you want to actually structure your debt. And actually it revolves around the conversation of cash flow all of the time.
Right.
So if I were to break this down to principles, it is coming back right down to the principles. And I'll have to say this as well. How many people here, for example, and even myself included for the longest time, deposit their income right into their checking account? Right? And then from your checking account, you go and you pay your bills like everybody else. My question, being an economist now, this is a trick question, but once you study this, the question I ask anybody here is that if you have a debt like a mortgage or a credit card even, or a line of credit, and you have money in your checking account, and you're putting money in your checking account, is that money in your checking account even your money?
That's a good question.
And the answer is, and if you take a deep look at this, there are situations, very specific situations, where the bank has literally taken the money from someone's savings account and lent it right back to them and getting them to pay interest to them for doing it.
Yep.
This is how the bank makes money off you. The big profitable product that the bank ever has is not their mortgages, it's not their investments, it's not their credit cards, despite the high interest rates that they charge. The most profitable product at a bank is their checking and savings account. Why do you think when you sign up for a checking or a savings account, they give you like a free iPad? I can tell you right now, that's going to be the most expensive iPad you'll ever get.
Okay, so therefore, I guess you're talking about a full financial literacy here, right? So not only like once we could afford the mortgage, a certain payment, you could teach us a way of killing the principal down, as fast as possible, and make the amortization period as short as possible, right? For the same amount of money we have that we could afford to make a payment on, and at the same time learn how our banking account works.
Yes, that's partially here. I'm here to tell people that it's not an overnight solution, unfortunately, but it is a solution as well. But it's not a tip of the trade or trick or anything like that. Or like, as they call it, like a hack or something like that. It is something that's been around for quite a little bit of time.
Right. So a $500,000 mortgage I owe, the traditional way, the average person pays it down over 25 years, right? So like you said, if I was going to attack the principal and be able to be mortgage free or what is the immediate advice that you would give my client or myself? Like, we book appointment with you, or maybe should we hold a seminar for you to educate us on this? Like, how do you go about that?
If anybody wants to learn the overall concept of how this actually works, I encourage them to reach out, book a time with us. We do have seminars. I am partnered with his name is Patrick Gill. He is a he used to be senior partner at Manulife. He actually talked about financial literacy. He has a TEDx talk as well that's talking about a friend in debt, talking about this specifically, how to turn your debt into a returnable asset. Okay, we hear about that. So I do encourage anyone to, from that conceptual standpoint, if you are wanting to understand how this can affect your current situation, if you have an upcoming renewal coming up, and you want to say, hey, can I pay this down a lot faster? Of course, we can definitely run the numbers and let you know how this actually works, step by step by step. But ultimately, what I just want to say here, all this is that ultimately it does revolve around your financial situation. But what I can say is that if you qualify for a mortgage beforehand, what you had beforehand, there are certain rules in which the government, even FSRA, has allowed you to basically leverage against your income for debt. Okay.
So would you say, Alan, not only you're a mortgage broker, I don't know, you mentioned about economy. Is that why you graduate on, or like you have that background, or financial planner? Where would you put yourself as?
Yeah, a little back. Well, yes, I wasn't always a mortgage broker. My trade was, I was an economist by trade.
Okay, good.
I was worked as an economist in specifically in the finance field. Obviously, that's where I started, and then I moved on to actually manufacturing. This is manufacturing on the business operations side for large auto manufacturing companies on an international scale. So how it came to this was that I just like everybody else, I came across this because I was going through my own purchase when I was a junior grade analyst, and I was buying my own home. And unfortunately, that process was not as seamless or smooth as I would like it to be. Unfortunately, it was a bit more disjointed. And it wasn't at any fault of the realtor. Actually, it was a great realtor. It was actually the mortgage broker who I remember having this conversation, even though with the interest rate. And I remember this very, very clearly because at that time, this might give my age away, $350,000 was the first house I was trying to buy. Back in the Upper Beaches, I know, when houses were still like, and that mortgage I was getting about $300,000, but the interest, even though it was 3.5% at the time, the total interest payments I would have paid over the lifetime of that mortgage would have been $155,000, just a little bit shy of half of the entire cost of my house. No, I'm sorry. That to me did not appeal to me, right? There had to be a different way. And so I ended up looking at it myself, and yes, there are rules and there are other products that you're able to utilize that you can leverage yourself, that you can free flow your income. You can, in Canada specifically, the big equalizers, taxes and debt, taxes. So I'm not a tax accountant myself, but I wouldn't be able to look in the eye and say, you know what, your real estate is not affected by your taxes and vice versa. Of course it is. And you want to make sure that's tied into one of your greatest assets and take advantage of that. Yeah, that's how I learned.
It sounds like you have a lot of knowledge around all that, factors which you'll be able to advise somebody depending on what you saw the right way for them to pay off the mortgage very quick, and at the same time learn the basic financial ways so that everything could be improved, I guess, financially.
Well, generally, we do like to say that there's a difference between owning a home and buying a home. Buying a home and owning a home are two different things. The mortgage that you use to purchase a home isn't always the mortgage you want to use to help you pay off the debt on the home. That's probably one of the biggest caveats, and you don't want to necessarily just pawn it off to the next renewal. There are options, once again, that you can utilize to shave off, and I'm not talking about a couple of years here. There are in some cases, we've been able to significantly reduce the time frame, 10, 15 years, sometimes in the cases almost like 20 years.
So let's go back to your example. You purchased your home for $350,000. Like I say, that was I'm trying to go back with history of pricing in the beaches. That's a long time ago, and you look amazing, by the way. So how long did it take you to pay it off? Like, what did you do with that? What did you leverage on that? Like, that's a real example.
Yeah. To break it down a little bit, I was quite young then. So what I did was I rented out the basement. I rented out every single room, and I built up quite a bit of a line of credit on their room. So from $350,000, I was able to, I had a $300,000 mortgage. Within a year or two, within a year, I remember looking at this, I had paid down almost close to $80,000.
Within a year? Say that again?
$80,000.
Wow.
So below. So my mortgage was to not even, yeah, 270, 250-ish, around roughly. Actually, a little bit, yeah, but 200,000-ish. And
1 year.
And within 1 year. And
Wow.
I still had a room. So I had about an $80,000, $90,000 line of credit room that I was able to utilize, which I used to purchase a business. And in a year when I did that and I tracked it, my accountant told me that because I had tracked it separately, that the loan I took out for myself, that interest was also tax deductible.
Excellent.
So that's when I started learning. So well, this is quite interesting. And because I was able to route all my income through there, I was again within another 2 years, I was able to build up another room of line of credit that I was able to use. And what I did there was it was a bungalow at the time, so I took that money out and I renovated the home. So I built a second floor on the home,
right,
and sold that for over $750 at the time. So I flipped on that one, and I went and I bought my place in Mississauga. And I was there for it, and so I moved in. That's when I started having kids, and I grew up a little bit, and still in the automotive industry at this point, is moving up, and so bought my house and did the exact same thing. Was able to utilize line credit to actually renovate the house that I bought right off the bat. Within a year of renovation, the house got appraised. It went from $500,000 to $1 million.
Nice. Yeah. So it's just, you lived it out. Whatever you're teaching, you have lived it out. So you know what, Alan, I'm so excited, because like as I say, what I'm offering my people is I want you to really attend his seminar to learn on how to structure your finances so that, even if you're young, you want to retire, you want to be financially independent, you want to own several homes, just to have that free, financial planner, mortgage advisor, or like you say, if you're renewing your mortgage, I'm going to strongly recommend Alan. So before we go for that long, specific group of people that are interested in this conversation, anything you advise right now, this year, anything that you wanted to say before, we finish this interview with you?
Yeah. I think Warren Buffett said this the best, and I've always actually went by this as well. And this goes by some of the advice that I give. Be fearful when people are greedy, and be greedy when people are fearful.
Repeat that again.
Be fearful when people are greedy, and be greedy when people are fearful.
Okay.
I know it may feel like a very scary time right now with interest rates going up, but I can also tell you there's also another side of the book that is also very, very exciting. And if you have your mortgage structured correctly, you can participate in that. It is, and as most people know, and people have talked, this also happens in the stock market as well. Recessions are times for opportunity. This is exactly what we're heading into. So I do echo what you're talking about. Is it going to be a good year for you to get into invest into real estate? I think so. It's going to be a very defining year. How that goes about would be very interesting. So if you have any questions about that, how to set yourself up for this, prepare for this, please reach out. I would just love to have a conversation.
Definitely. I'm going to have a conversation with you as well. So like you said, a lot of people hear like it goes to everybody, like, oh, it's about time to buy, it's about time to do this, it's about time. But like you said, recession is an opportunity for people to be able to take advantage of. So, that is really great saying, and just hoping to really honestly sit with my people to be able to learn on how to maneuver this time. Thank you so much, Alan, again. You have yourself a great weekend, and I guess we'll talk to you very soon.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming out. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.